Okay, well, let's get going. Like I said, accounts payable management today, and let's have a look at training classes. So with the central nervous system, we have weekly Acumatica training classes covering different topics. Those classes can be found at acumaticaengineering.com/acumatica-training. As you can see on the right-hand side, today we're covering accounts payable review. Next week, we'll be looking at financial statement creation on the 20th. And the following week, we will be going over time and expenses review. These classes are held on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Every class will be recorded and available to you, and those will be found at acumaticaengineering.com/maintenance-classes. Only our clients have access to this link. It's part of the support service that we offer. So if you're here, it means that you were personally forwarded a link. The good thing about these classes is that it gives people an opportunity to ask questions, which will be answered at the end of each presentation. This meeting offers the opportunity to submit your questions using the question box, and we'll answer whatever we have time for. And hopefully that will give you a little bit more information about the topics that we're reviewing. If we don't have answers or don't have time for those questions, a video with those answers will be posted to our blog, which can be found at acumaticaengineering.com/engineering-blog. All right then, so let's have a look at today's agenda. Covering accounts payable today, we're going to have a look at prepayments and how those are set up and processed in Acumatica. We're also going to look at our AP aged reports and the different reports that are available for the AP team and accounting staff to review outstanding amounts. And then we're going to review the check run process, which is typically done in 4 stages in Acumatica. We've got approval of bills, preparing payments, processing payments, and releasing payments. Okay, that's what we'll be covering today. Let's start off with prepayments. So with prepayments, we have AP documents that we create to record advance payments or down payments to vendors that we want to prepay for. There are traditionally 2 ways to enter in Acumatica. So the first way is that we enter the vendor's prepayment request on the bills and adjustments form as a bill with a prepayment type. The benefit of this is that this method allows for an approval before payment. It goes through the approval process, whatever is set up in your system. And then these prepayment types can be included on check runs. The second method offers the method includes creating and releasing a prepayment directly by using checks and payments. So it's a manual entry for that prepayment. This method, however, doesn't use AP approval maps, and it cannot be included on check runs. So the good thing about Acumatica is that it provides these 2 methods, and obviously the approval method is likely the most ideal because it follows a more strict process, but both these methods take away the need for users to have to go through applying prepayments, the old QuickBooks or Sage way, where there's a negative amount on an existing bill, which we'll cover very briefly. So overall, let's have a look at prepayments. So I'm going to head into payables, and I'm going to open up bills and adjustments. Okay. So this is the first method where we are creating a bill with a prepayment type. Okay. Finally loaded. There we go. All right. So instead of having a type as a bill here, we're going to have it as a prepayment. And let's select a vendor. Let's find a vendor. Let's say we are putting a down payment on some new office doors. And we'll put it as today's date, and we'll just call it new office doors. And let's see, office, office supplies, call it. Let's just do one. And let's say we're putting a $5,000 down payment. So we'll see that we've got a balance here of $5,000. It's going to hit the necessary accounts that we want it to hit. I believe project is here, so we're going to assign project X to it. We're going to hit save. Okay. So once I take this off hold, it would traditionally go through the approval method, but since I don't have those methods set up in this demo, we'll just head over to the release stage. But typically at the stage where you take this document off of hold is where it would align with the next stage of approval, where someone would review the bill and adjustment and approve it so that it can be released. Okay. The other good thing about bills and adjustments is that you can put in any attachments on files, you can add notes, standard information there. And if I were to hit release, that gets completed. Looking at the financial details, we've got some information back here where Acumatica takes care of all the back-end work. So we've got the AP account here, flushes through to the deposit to vendor, and obviously when we get the bill and we apply the payment, it will flush back out of deposit to vendor and hit the appropriate account. Okay. You'll notice that there's no batch number here, therefore there's no actual journal entry transaction because the GL won't be affected until the actual payment is made. And you'll see that as part of the check run process when this is processed at the next stage. And again, approval details, if you had those, that information would be listed here, any approvals or releasing. Okay. So that pretty much covers the first method. If we were to open up American Glassdoor, which is our vendor, let me just see if I can move that over. You'll see that the financial details are driven by the vendors' GL accounts over here. So we've got our standard AP and expense accounts, but over here, any prepayments are going to code to that 13200 account. And so that's where the information is being driven from in Acumatica. So again, there's no need to do any manual adjustments, any journal entries. Acumatica's process here is designed to take care of all those back-end journal entries based on the setup. Okay. That covers the first method that we went through. Let's have a look at method number 2, which is, again, going through checks and payments as the form of prepayment. Okay. So I'll head back into payables. And we'll go checks and payments. And we'll add one here. And instead of a check, we'll do a prepayment. Let's pick a different okay, so over here, instead of maybe check, maybe we're doing a Visa prepayment. So this provides us an option to select the payment method. Maybe a corporate credit card payment. And we'll take it out of the corporate card account. Payment amount, let's just say 2,500. There's no documents to apply because I haven't received any invoices or bills. You may have a pro forma invoice that you want to attach, but there's no actual documents in Acumatica to apply here. And so once that is saved, I'll take it off hold. Okay, and release. Okay. So with this method, we now see that there is a batch number. Because it's a manual check and payment entry, it's going to apply itself to a batch. And we see that the AP account is again tied to that GL account deposit to vendor, which was set up on the vendor tab. If I go to this batch number, so here's that information. Got a credit to the corporate credit card and a debit to the deposit to vendor, which was done automatically as part of the batch. So this is, again, by having Acumatica set up at the GL accounts level on vendor cards, all this is taken care of by Acumatica automatically. When I apply the actual bill to this vendor, it will remove this prepaid amount from the deposit to vendor and clear off AP as required. Again, going through the Acumatica process will allow everything to happen in the background with little to no need to make any extra journal entry adjustments. And you'll be able to apply documents to this prepayment when you get them. So if we go back to bills and adjustment, we'll just quickly review how that's different than an existing QuickBooks method that may have been used in the past. So if we were to just open up an existing bill here, again, going through the two methods that we just went through for prepayments, it removes the need for somebody to have to go into a particular bill when it's entered. And if I were to just take a copy of this one, it removes the need for them to enter the lines of those bill and then enter something like prepayment from July 2022, negative $20,000. And so what that does here is it drops the total detail amount of the bill. And the issue with this is that it won't be tied to the necessary accounts and clear the actual prepayment application from July when it was done in Acumatica. This will force users to have to go back into that prepayment and adjust it manually so that balance is clear as they're supposed to. So no more need to enter a negative amount on a bill to account for prepayments. Okay, so trash. Right, delete that record. So those are our prepayment amounts. Let's head back into our presentation and head over to the next slide. Next, we're going to have a look at AP aged reports. AP aged reports are a few different reports available. Each report offers home currency as well as multi-currency options to review documents and information. And the aging is determined on accounts payable preferences. So in this case, we've taken a screenshot. We've got 7, 14, and 30 days. You may have something else set up where it's maybe 15, 30, and 60, or 30, 60, and 90. Whatever the preference is set up there is what's going to drive the aging on the reports. So first two reports we're going to look at, we've got an AP aged past due, which is a report that reviews AP documents with past due balances. Balances that are not overdue are displayed in the current column. Okay. AP aged outstanding is designed to show you when you should expect to make payments for open AP documents. It shows open accounts payable documents even if they are posted to periods later than the aging period date. Okay. So the key difference here is that one is giving you a forecast and one is telling you what the current situation is. So I'll head back into my database. It's a fairly old database, so you might see me head back. So here we've got reports, and just like we said before, we've got AP aging, which will display information in our home base currency, and then we've got the AP aging MC, which is going to show us those documents in multiple currencies. So let's head into AP aging. Okay, so with AP aging, we've got a couple different options here. We can run it with a summary or detailed with retainage. So let's just start with summary so we get a brief snapshot of what's going on. And then we also have the option to select vendor classes if those are set up, or specific vendors. Let's change it to something in the past. Let's go way back, my old database here. So let's try end of the month in April 2020. And hit run report, see what we get. So over here is a summary. Again, none of these documents, or like whatever documents make up these amounts, are not overdue. So that's what we have here in the current. And then we see a few instances where we do owe some money in the 15 to 30 day column, and then we have the over 30 day column over here with total balances. If we go back to the report and we run it as a detailed version, we're going to see the documents that make up those balances. So with AA vendor, we've got a current balance here, and these are the 3 documents and bills that make up those balances. So this is good for reconciling and auditing amounts. Okay. And again, so we've got our 1 to 7, 8 to 14, 15 to 30, and over 30. That's going to basically refer back to accounts payable preferences, which is over here. 7, 14, and 30. In the aging settings, and that's what's going to drive that AP aging. Again, April 30th. So there's that report again. 7, 14, 30, and then over 30. Okay. So heading back, we're going to have a look at the next report, which was the AP coming due, which is our aged. Okay. But we'll have a look at this one in multi-currency. Let's just review what that is. Again, you have very similar options. This is just going to show us, what payments we should expect to have to pay in the future as of a certain date. So we have our summary. Let's see if we can head to a similar date. So it's a reverse perspective of the AP aged report. Let's see what it gives us at that time. Okay, so now we've got currency settings here. Let's see if there's anything that's different than US. Nothing. Let's see if I can find one that is different. Let's pick a different date. Let's try January. Oops. Let's try one more. Everything seems to be US here. Okay, but should there be any records or vendors that take a different currency, we would be able to isolate those here and get those balances. Again, we've got amounts over 30 days because this is being run for September. So let's just head back to a more reasonable date. Let's try April again. So as of April 30th, it takes the reverse. We know in over 30 days, we're going to be expecting to pay these amounts. And it looks like we've made some prepayments for 0 to 7 days, which was good. Again, you could run this in a detailed format. Let's just try a different date, something kind of midway. Let's try 2021. So now we've got a little bit of a different variety here. So American Door in 8 to 14 days, we should expect to pay this amount. And then these are the documents that are attached to that. Past due. We've got a credit here. And then we've got some balances that are past due. So if I were to just change this to a little bit sooner, let's see if they're still past due. So now, same thing, 2 months earlier, American Door is now something that we're going to be looking to pay that $30,000 balance over 30 days as of January 31. Whereas as of March 31, it was something that we would have been having to look to pay in the 8 to 14 day range. So that perspective gives us a little bit of indication on output of cash required in these different coming due ranges, 0 to 7, 8 to 14, and 15 to 30. And then what is past due and over 30 days. Okay. All right, let's head back to our presentation because there are a couple more reports to review. So the next couple of reports, we've got AP balance by vendor, which displays the balance of a selected vendor or all vendors during a select period. It's kind of like a vendor statement. It's what we look like. It's something that we would use in the event that we get a statement from a vendor, and we want to be able to align that with what we show on our records, and then reconcile and review for any discrepancy. So if they're showing a balance that is maybe higher than ours because we've applied a payment, we could reconcile and show them, oh, hey, we made this payment and maybe they didn't account for it, or there's a timing difference. The next one is the aged sensitive report. So this one is a historical cutoff. It's a report to determine the state of open documents at the end of a particular period. Payments in the future are not applied here. So whereas AP aging, the first report that we looked at, those payments are applied. The sensitive report is designed to help us reconcile to a GL balance. It's going to be useful for audit purposes. So let's head back and have a look. Payables. So let's balance by vendor. So a couple options that we have here. So we've got, we can run for open documents. We can run for all documents, open plus current period. Let's just run for open. Let's go and run it for April. And then again, we have the option to select a vendor. And we're going to run this report. Let's see what we got. So this runs it for all the vendors and shows us the balances. So blue line, we've got 900,000. Let's see if we can find one with multiple documents. So good hardware. So if we were to go back and filter out for good hardware, and we run this report, we'd be able to compare this against the vendor statement that, or a customer statement that good hardware has sent to us, and we should be able to reconcile these amounts with what is provided to us by them. Okay. So that's the AP balance by vendor. Let's have a look at AP aged sensitive. Okay, so again, we've got options for summary and detailed, but instead of having as of particular date, we have financial period. So let's go look at what we had for year end 2021. Okay, and on the report. So because this is detailed, we're going to see the bill and the documents. Actually, let's just run it in summary first. So our balance here is going to show us what was due to a particular vendor and our total balances as of that date. And any payments that may have been applied after the fact will not be taken into consideration here. This amount should tie to your AP balance as of the end of the financial period 12/2021. So comparing this statement or this report balance to the AP age report may not always align. And the difference is that payments that are made after the fact are going to affect the results of AP aging, whereas they won't affect the AP age sensitive report, because this report again is designed to be able to reconcile the GL balances. So let's have a look at that again, but now we'll go back to detailed. So this $900,000 balance, there may have been a payment that was applied after the fact. If that is the case, it won't show up here, but it would show up in the AP aging report. I did want to make sure that I have enough time for the check run process. So let's head back to our presentation and have a look at the check run process. So as previously stated, 4 steps to our check run process. Step 1 is approving bills for payment. So this is a little bit different than approving the purchase order itself and whether that purchase order is legitimate. This step is approving whether the bill should be paid on that particular run. It's already been processed as a bill in Acumatica, and now we're just approving it to be paid. So this step takes aging past due, cash discount availability, and cash availability versus requirements into consideration, something that your finance team may review, controller or AP, who needs to be paid earlier, who doesn't need to be paid earlier, are cash discounts available, all those are considered. And we're only going to be looking at documents with the status of open, and we have the opportunity to make changes to the payment method. So once we've selected our bills that we want to pay, we then prepare the payments. The good thing here is that, again, we have the option to change on the fly specific documents. If a check is required for a particular bill, or we may want to wire something to get it in their hands sooner and collect the discount. We have the options to change those methods. You can pay multiple vendors at once, and we have the option to group multiple AP documents into a single payment for each vendor, unless you decide you want to pay certain documents separately. Okay, we then process payments, so printing checks for payment documents, and we also create batches for EFT payments. And then our final step is releasing those payments. So at the release stage, we can release and close them, and then if we don't release them, we have the option to reprint, release multiple payments at once, and when done, the payments are released via mail or processed online. So let's head into Acumatica and have a look at that. So I've done a little bit of setup already, but we now have, okay, so we've got approved bills for payment. So here we've got options to show, due date within, cash discount expires within, and pay date within. We can change these numbers, but typically it's 7 days because we have weekly check runs in this example, so we can select these as options for filtering. We have the option to sort by vendor, and we can see if there's any cash discounts available. We've got our payment methods listed here and vendor references. Okay. So here we can decide which bills we want to pay. So maybe we want to pay Doug Brown for all for all their work. And maybe we also want to look at the next page. Let's see if we can find, maybe we want to pay HY. And let's see if we can find one more. Let's assume maybe Edison Power. Those have balances. But instead of a check for Edison Power, maybe we need to just wire them. So let's just set up both. So we have the option again, as we mentioned, to make those changes right away. Okay, so now that we've selected a number of different documents, we can see that the total amount that we've approved for is 520K, or just over that. We're gonna hit save. Okay, so once we hit save, we basically approve those to be paid. Let's move on to step 2. Okay, so release. Oh, sorry, prepare payments. So the prepare payments is going to group all of our selected approved bills that we've released to give you an outline of what's been approved based on a payment method. So we've got, we had 2 options that we checked off. We had checks. So these are the bills that were approved. Okay, so if we head back, we'll go to approved bills for payments. We don't want to show not approved. Okay. And then we go to prepare payments. So at this point, we then still have the option to prepare the payments for the certain bills. So we can process all or process what we select. So again, we wanted to pay those Doug Brown and Brothers. So let's select those and get the checks out and going. Okay. And let's change it. We can change the date and then hit process. Okay, so as we saw, we had we had 5 different applications, so 5 different bills that we paid. It all grouped it together on one check. To pay off this $158,335 amount. If we're happy, we can then process, and it'll print out the check with those different reference amounts. Okay, automatically when you process the payments, it's going to take us to the release option. So this release option basically will close out that record, firm it up, but maybe the printer got jammed and it didn't print out on the check properly and we need to reprint it. We have the option to reprint and process again. And it prints it out. If we go back to prepare payments, so again, looking at the check, in this case, now maybe we want to run a check run for the multiple vendors. So we've got, maybe National Fire, we've got Home Depot, we got Empire Blue Cross. So we've got 3 different vendors here. If we were to process those, it would now take us, okay. And then again, we see our next check number. We can dive into the references. There's the reference for that check. And process. Okay. So these checks get printed out, they get signed off on, and then when that is done, we need to, final step, release the payments. Again, we don't do this until everything's signed off and we know that it's completed accurately. So once we're satisfied, we release the payments and we process that. And that will convert the bill and payment to be closed. Okay. Let's head back to prepare payments again. Let's see if we have anything in the Fedwire. Okay. Let's go approve bills. Let's just change the date here to April 30th. And nice. Okay. And I go to prepare payments. Let's see if we can get it. What's that? Edison Power. So let's just say here we've got multiple documents. Here we go, multiple documents to the same vendors. So if we want to process this bill payment over here, let's just go over the pay separately option. So in the event that maybe we want to send out one check to NetGen, but we want to send out separate payments to periphery distribution, we can scroll over to the right over here and we have the option to pay separately. Okay. So what that does at the process stage, we hit process. And now we'll see 2 separate payments for that periphery distribution code. And then the 1 payment for NetGen. As such, we'll get 2 different checks for that periphery. One there and one there. Okay, and then we'll release those to be closed. Okay. Okay, getting back to our presentation. So today we looked at reviewing prepayments and the two different methods offered in Acumatica for that. Again, focus on those two different methods within Acumatica and make sure we're not using that QuickBooks method. We discussed the 4 key AP age reports that are available within Acumatica and how they could be used for audit and cash flow review. We then walked through the 4 steps of the check run process. We looked at paying certain bills separately, grouping bills for check runs, reprinting, and approving specific or groups of bills to be paid. Doesn't look like we have any questions in the question box.